Okay, so we're going to start out. I've added some objectives to the top of your notes so you kind of know what we're doing. So first of all, we're going to work on solving inequalities using the addition and multiplication properties of inequality today. So we're working on those. I don't want to highlight. That's all right. So the addition and multiplication properties. We're going to simplify inequalities using the distributive property and combining like terms. And then we're going to solve some word problems that are going to involve multi-step inequalities, which is kind of like what we were doing on some of the homework review. All right, so when we're solving inequalities with more than one operation, we undo the operations just like balancing an equation. Okay, we undo the operations that are done to the variable using inverse operations and in that reverse order. It's just like balancing an equation. Remember when we started balancing and I told you it's going to get harder and it's going to get more complex? It's continuing to do that. We're proving that today, but it's the same thing. The one thing about inequalities is you have to remember to flip the inequality symbol when you multiply or divide by a negative number. Okay, so it's only multiplication and division with a negative number. So this first one I've done for you. We've got the equation, or the inequality is 3x plus 5 is greater than 20. Just like balancing, I drew my line down the middle. Okay, it's always my inequality is the middle place. Okay, when I talk about the two sides. Then I subtract 5 because we undid the addition by subtracting. Then I have 3x is greater than 15. We undo the multiplication. It's 3 times x. We undo it by dividing on both sides. And so we got x is greater than 5. Okay, so let's try b. I'm going to go ahead and split it. Let's try b together. So what would we do? Add 6. Okay, so then I'm left with 2x is greater than or equal to, what's 4 plus 6? 10. Okay. So now the thing that's being done is multiplication, right? 2 times x. So I divide. And we don't need to change it because we're dividing by a positive. Right, we're dividing by a positive, so we don't need to flip anything. So it's just our 2's cancel, and we're left with x is greater than or equal to, what's 10 divided by 2? 5. Can they hear us? Possibly. Depends on how loud it is. I'm recording it. Like for you, you were gone the other day. I just went ahead and recorded everything so you could watch the lesson and get caught up.
Mrs. Talbert's YouTube famous. Yeah.
Not too much.
Really?
No.
You put this on YouTube?
Yeah, I record my lessons when people aren't here. Like geometry, every day my geometry class is recorded. So when you're absent, you can get on YouTube and watch the lesson. Like you won't see me, you'll just see all this. All right, so let's look at the next one. I'm going to go ahead and, again, like I'm just drawing this line for help. You don't have to do it, but it's, for some people, it's helpful. All right, so negative 3y minus 6 is greater than or equal to negative 24. First step? Add 6, because we're undoing subtraction. Right, we had subtract, so we're going to add 6. Okay, negative 3y is greater than or equal to negative 24 plus 6 is negative 18. Very nice. Okay, so now what's being done?
So would we have to flip the sign then?
We will. We not yet, but we will, because we're taking negative 3 and we're multiplying it by y. So what undoes multiply? We're going to divide by negative 3. A lot of times, as soon as I write that, I go ahead and flip my sign, so I don't forget. Well, I usually flip it lower, so I can put it in my answer and not. There we go. So I usually go ahead and write it down here. So it's going to be in my answer. Okay, so then the 3's cancel. Y is less than or equal to
6.
A positive 6. Perfect. But yes, so this was a flip. You might remind yourself, make that note so you remember. But yes, we flipped because we divided by a negative number. It's a flipper. It's like a dolphin.
Oh my gosh, I swim like a little kid.
All right, we got those? All right, so let's go down. Example 2. Okay, we have some division in there. They're a little bit more complex maybe, or we feel like they are. Okay, the first one's done. So we have, 8 was being added, so we subtracted it. Okay, and we have negative x divided by 3 is greater than or equal to 4. So we're doing division. What's the inverse of division? Multiplication. So I multiplied by negative 3, which meant I had to flip my sign. So this is a flipper too. Okay, flipped my sign, but I did multiplication to undo the division. So let's try B together.
So you add
2. We add 2. We're good because it was being subtracted. So we add 2. So I have, is that x over 8 or negative x? Just x. Okay. So x over 8 is less than or equal to 2. Good. We're going to multiply by 8 because division is being done. So we're going to multiply by 8. So those cancel. X less than or equal to?
16.
You got it.
I actually like these.
Yeah, these are not that hard.
All right.
It's like satisfying to solve them.
It is. I would agree. It's satisfying. You're like,
At this point, it's not math anymore. It's logic problems.
Can we just do this for the rest of the year?
Algebra or geometry gets a lot into logic. All right, so example 3 then is looking at that distributive property. So our equation is 4x minus 3 times the quantity 2 plus 2x is greater than 10. So I had to use the distributive property. Remember, I circled the negative 3 because the sign in front of your number always goes with it. So we're distributing a negative 3. So 4x times, and we had negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x. All right, next, I combine my like terms. My 4x and my negative 6x, you have to take the sign, is negative 2x. Minus 6 is greater than 10. This is the point at which you're like, okay, this is simple. Like we've done this. The new part is the distributive property and the combining like terms step. Okay, so from here down, I'm not really like you guys are like, this is awesome. I love it. So do we understand the other? All right, then let's give B a try.
It's just like solving equations. You just have to be mindful of multiplying and dividing by negative.
Put down x plus 4.
Okay, put down x plus 4
And then
greater than or equal to
5x
5x.
plus 30.
Okay, plus 30 minus 2x. Okay, so okay, so I'm going to go ahead and circle those so we see them as we're working them. So we're going to do 5x. So I'm going to go ahead and write x plus 4 is greater than or equal to 5x minus 2x, 3x plus 30. Okay, so this one is a little different because I have an x on the left and I have an x on the right.
We need to get rid of it.
So we need to move an x.
I would subtract the x from the front.
Okay, so we can subtract the x here. So 4 is greater than or equal to 2x plus 30. Okay, somebody else besides these gentlemen. They've been saying a lot of the steps.
Cameron.
Subtract 30.
Okay, Olivia's out. She said subtract 30. So 4 minus 30 is negative 26 is greater than or equal to 2x.
Hold on.
You're good.
Divide.
Divide, okay, by. Divide by 2. Okay. Nope. Shh, shh, shh.
13. Yeah, huh?
Negative 26 divided by... Negative 13 is greater than or equal to x. Did we flip the sign?
No, because we didn't
No.
divide or multiply by a negative.
We didn't divide by a negative 2. It was positive. It's fine for our answer to be a negative. Okay, we're going to get negative answers, but we didn't flip the sign because we didn't divide by a negative. Okay, we didn't multiply by 1 either, but we're called for division. So very nice. Okay, you guys are doing awesome.
A
Woohoo!
wise man once said, math is fun if you know what you're doing.
Okay, so we actually just did a problem very similar to this. Okay, so this one starts out, the only thing that's different here than the one we just did is we have a not equals to. And you're going to have some of these in your homework, so I want to make sure you get them. But so we distributed, right? The 7 distributed, so we end up with 7x minus 14 plus 5 is not equal to 2x plus 15 minus 3x. So our first step was distribute. Now we have that combined like terms. Here we combine negative 14 with 5. Over here it was 2x with negative 3x. Those are our like terms. Questions about that? All right, so then we went down and have 7x minus 9 is not equal to negative x plus 15. This is the same thing we had last time. The last problem, we have an x on the left and a negative x on the right. We have to get them to the same side, which is why it says move your variables to one side. So I added x. And now I want my constants, right? Just like we always do. This is a step that's kind of new, as sometimes we haven't worked with in a little bit. Now move your constants to the other side. Constants are your numbers, right? No variables, just the numbers. We have 8x is not equal to 24. Divide by 8. We don't have to flip the sign. It's an equal sign, but it's also positive. And we get x is not equal to 3. So this is just kind of the final culmination of everything you've done. Variables on both sides, the inequality. The inequality can be not equals as well as less than, equal, or greater than, and the others. Yeah, it's just review at this point. So let's go down to the word problem. Yes, right? I kind of drew a picture to get you started. This is a struggle. So I'm trying to spend more time on these, and I've kind of got a thing to kind of maybe a sequence, because sometimes it's like reading the problem, like you should read and plan and solve and check. It's the plan part that we're really struggling with how to do, I think, and like picking up the important thing from the reading. So Jeffrey wants to fence in a rectangular garden and has up to 60 feet of fencing available. If the width must be 5 feet more than half the length, what are the possible dimensions of the garden? Okay, so let's look in here and see what is helpful. Okay, I have already underlined the up to 60 feet. Because what does up to mean?
Greater than, no, less than, or equal to.
Up to, okay, so it's going to be less than or equal to. The up to 60 feet. Good. All right. So the width, if we go back through here, it's a rectangular garden. I drew a rectangle for us. The width must be 5 feet more than half the length. Okay. So W,
Equals
no. Well, W must be, yes. Okay, must be. So equals 5. More is 5 more is
5 plus, I got it, 5
Plus the x divided by w divided
5 plus 0.
okay. So hold on. I think we're trying to get ahead of ourselves. We don't even have to have the 5 in there. What's more mean? What operation?
Plus.
Plus.
I figured it out.
Okay, hold on. That's okay. Than half the length.
0.5 L.
We could do 0.5. That's fine.
Or 1/2.
Or you can do 1/2. Either one. And then we have length. So I'm assuming we need L. Okay, so that's kind of breaking that in there. But let's look at some steps here. We need to define our variables or our terms. So if I label this, okay, so here's my length, here's my width. Which one of those do we want?
We want
find the length.
the length. Yeah, you want the length because we know the width must be 5 feet more than the. We know more about the half the length. So we're gonna need the length first to find out the width.
Yep.
We're going to need the length first to find out the width. So we want to make our variable L, like let L equal the length. Okay.
But we can't solve for W until we solve for L.
Okay, I'm going to make this a capital L too, because otherwise it gets confusing and looks like a 1. Okay, so if we let L equal the length, that's perfect. Then the width is going to equal what? We did this. You guys talked it through. 5 plus 1/2 the length is going to be our width.
Put length divided by 2.
Or we can put length divided by 2. Okay. Are there any needed formulas for us to use?
Length times width.
Okay, nope. Think about, because it comes back to Jeffrey wants a fence to fence in the perimeter. Okay, so the formula we need is like, because we're talking about perimeter, which is 2 times the length times plus 2 times the width. Awesome. Okay. So now we need to take our variables. We need to take these things here, and these are equation, and change it into an inequality. How are we going to do that? Do we know what our perimeter is?
Yes.
60. Okay. Now this is the hard part. So let me actually, because it gave you all this stuff, it says because you said the perimeter can be up to 60 feet, which means less than or equal. So would it be better if we put the 60 at the end?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's change this and write 2L plus 2W equals the perimeter. That way we can say, okay, well, it has to be less than or equal to 60. Does that make sense? Like we can put it on the other side so it makes more sense in the way we're reading it. So L is just our length, so we can keep that. And then, so I'm taking this formula up here. So 2L, we're keeping that, plus 2W. Well, what did we say our W was? 1/2 5 plus the 1/2 of L. So we're going to put this in for that. So we're going to say times 2 plus, or times the quantity, 5 plus 1/2 L. And then what do we do?
First, we should distribute. And I have a
Okay.
question.
Okay, what's your question?
So when you have like 1/2 L, do you times the half and the L by
Nope.
2?
Just the L, or just the half, just the number. Okay, so we're going to distribute. So a positive 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 1/2 L is less than or equal to 60. Okay, so Chase, you're out. Next step. Nope.
Wait, no, I'm past that.
You're good.
I'm past.
Add our L's together, so combine our like terms. So what's 2L plus L? 3L plus 10 is less than or equal to 60. Not you, you did the last one. What was it? Subtract 10. Okay.
Oh, I see what we got. I see.
So 3L is less than or equal to 50. Okay. Cheyenne, what would be next? Divide 3L. Good. Or divide by 3 on both sides. So then we have L is less than or equal to
1.6 or 16.6 repeating.
16.6 repeating.
And we can round to 16.67.
We could round to 16.67. Okay.
Hold on, just play that.
What would be the best? Because rounding at high school is not so cool. 16.6 repeating is not as accurate either. What fraction would that be? Not 17. No, rounding is not. Rounding is kind of frowned upon.
Over 99.
No.
16 and 6 tenths, but that would reduce.
But that wouldn't be 6 tenths because 6 tenths would terminate.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So this is L is less than or equal to 16 and 2/3. Right, 0.333 is 1/3. 0.6666 is 2/3. Okay, that would actually be your best answer, is to make it a fraction, because those repeating decimals are just not as good. All right, very nice. So again, when you're working on your homework tonight, and you get to these word problems, kind of work yourself through these steps. Define the variables or the terms that you want to use. Are there any needed formulas that you already know? Like this one, we needed the perimeter formula. And then try to write out try to write out your equation, or in this case, your inequality, and solve it from there.
What is this down here?
Down there is the answer. So
That's not the answer.
it is the answer. If we went back, we hadn't got there yet.
Oh.
You're good, because it says, what are the possible dimensions of the garden? So we haven't taken that. Like, we're not actually done with 16 2/3.
Yeah, we're just done finding out the length.
Right, we're done finding out the length, and we have it in terms of 16 2/3, but we know that it's feet, right? So we wouldn't say 16 2/3 feet if we were calling a contractor. We would tell him feet and inches.
And there's an easy way we can translate that into inches, because
Mm-hmm.
there's 12 inches in a foot. You can multiply that by 4 to get 8/12, which
Okay.
would be 8 inches.
So yeah, so we could have, maybe yellow is not the best color. So yeah, 16 2/3. So you're saying multiply this by 4/4. So that would be 16 8/12, because it's in inches. So that would be 16 feet 8 inches equals our length. Okay. So we're just taking 16 2/3 and getting it into, it is 16 feet and 2/3 feet, or 2/3 of a foot. So how long is that? How about the width then?
Let's solve for it.
That's, yeah, we can solve for it, right? We know our width is going to be, so the width is 5 plus half of our length. And so do we want to do half of 16 foot 8 inches, or do you want to do?
Let's do that, yeah, because that would be 8 and 3, 6.
So like when it comes to this part, you don't have to write the equation. Like you can think about it. It might be easier for you to say, like this would be the equation. But maybe you want to say, well, what's half of 16 feet 8 inches?
It's 8 1/3.
What's half of 16 feet?
8.
8. What's half of 8 inches?
4 inches.
Okay, so this would be 5 plus 8 feet 4 inches. And it's 5 feet, right? So what's 5 plus 8? 13.
Yay, we did that.
And that equals the width. But yeah, so down in the corner, that was the answer. So that if once we did all the work, or as we were working through it, we could be like, oh, okay, we got it right, or we did not. Bless you.
I forgot to write that down.
Except you won't have it to look back on later. But
I can rewrite it. Or I could just solve on my own.
Or you could just
lots of
pause it
coulds.
real quick.
You're right, I could do that.
Okay, so we started this number 37 and before notes, and we took a break so we could include it in our notes so that those of you that were absent could see it. So this is number 37 in the textbook, and I wrote down a few things. So let me read the problem again. It's on page 152 if you want to look at it. So water from the Dead Sea is 8 times saltier than ocean water. If 50 gallons of Dead Sea water and 100 gallons of ocean water together contain at least 20 gallons of salt, what is the percentage of salt in each water source? Okay, so we have the DS is the Dead Sea, OW is the ocean water, and our mix is what we have. So we're mixing 50 gallons, right? So let's put, this would be our gallons. 50 gallons of Dead Sea water to 100 gallons of ocean water. So that takes care of those two things. Remember, we need that percent because it's always the whole times the percent equals the part. So this is the percent of salt. This is gallons of water. Salt. All right, so the Dead Sea is 8 times saltier than ocean water, and we're using than to compare. So we need to make X the ocean water. Does that make sense? Because it's our Dead Sea is being described in terms of the ocean water. So our ocean water's percent salt is X. The Dead Sea is 8 times saltier. And then we know that they contain together at least 20 gallons of salt. Does that 20 go here in my percent column?
No.
Does it go in my gallons of water column? No, it goes over here because this is gallons of salt. Because like when we're making these tables, if you're able to label these, usually it's 1 from this one, right? So we took gallons of water and we multiplied it by the percent, so we're getting the gallons of salt for that final column. All right, so we multiply these. 50 times 8x, what is that? 8x. $400, okay, so 400x, and then we've got 100 times x is just that. So far are we good? Okay, the table helps. All right, so we're combining these two things to get 20 gallons of salt. So how would to get at least, I should say, not to get 20, but to get at least 20. We can put that in there. So what do I need to do with those two blue numbers? We're going to add them because we're combining them. So 400x plus 100x contains at least 20 gallon. Contains at least. Okay, so that's going to be greater than or equal to 20. Awesome, so we've got 500x greater than or equal to 20. So x is greater than.
No, 0.04.
I did the wrong way.
Okay, I was like, it can't be 25. Okay, I heard 0.04. Any confirmation on that? You can confirm? Okay, so 0.04, but this is the question says, what percent of salt
40%.
is, not 4%. Okay, so x is greater than or equal to 4%. So that means, what is x? Is it Dead Sea or is it ocean water? X is ocean water. Okay, so our ocean water is greater than or equal to 4%. And so that means our Dead Sea is greater than or equal to 8. Yeah, 8 times 4.
It's 32.
32%. Because again, when we're mixing these, well, we don't know the percent of our mix. Okay, I say, but when we're mixing these concentrations, we're not adding their concentrations, right? 32 plus 4 to get 36% concentrate. It's not, it's actually weaker than that. Okay, I just had this conversation with my son the other day about mixing something. I don't remember what it was, but 2 different chemicals we have. Oh, alcohol. We had like 90% and 70%. He's like, Mom, if you mix them, that's 160% alcohol. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, it's a mix in between though, right? It's a blend because there's water added. So it's actually would be, so the mix would be, its percent of salt is going to be somewhere between 4 and 32%. Oh my goodness. Okay. So does that help with 37?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you check my test?
Perfect.